You're putting a lot of content out there, your blogs, your landing pages, your TikTok, wherever you can in order to bring in sales, but leads and users are not coming your way. And here's why. Most of your potential customers are going to platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Perplexity and searching for solutions to the problems that your brand solves, but you're not being cited. Someone else is getting recommended, someone else is getting suggested, and another company is taking all the mental real estate from your customers. To them, in that setting, you don't even exist as a solution because they can't see you. You're not being cited by AI, and so you're invisible to your consumers. Now, in this video, I'm going to break down how you can fix that, specifically with AI SEO, or otherwise known as GEO. I'm going to explain what exactly GEO is, why it's different from traditional SEO, and a 6-step framework that you can start implementing today in order to get cited by AI and be in front of your target customers. By the way, I'm Ramsey, and I help early stage startups with their marketing, go-to-market, and storytelling, and I've driven billions of dollars in enterprise value for my clients. So let's get into the video. So first off, what is GEO? Well, GEO stands for Generative Engine Optimization, and it's the practice of optimizing your content and brand presence so AI tools can cite you. Now, if an AI tool can cite you, it can recommend you, it can suggest you, and it can put you right in front of consumers who are searching for solutions to the problems that you solve or are looking for an opinion and need an authority to give that. Now, there is some difference between this and traditional SEO, and we'll go through them quickly now. First off, with traditional SEO, your goal is to rank for a specific keyword. You might type something into Google, you get a bunch of different results that you might want to look through, and then you get to decide as the consumer which is the right solution for you or which provides the best answer for what you're asking. So as a user, you see the links in the results, you click through to the site, that person gets traffic, and then that's where the brand's funnel starts. Once they click in, they are now in the funnel. Now with the AI discovery journey, it's a little bit different. You're looking to get cited in the answer that the AI gives. Now the AI synthesizes this answer from many sources across the web, right? Not just its internal training data, but really looking at different sources across the web that we'll get onto later, and then coming up with an answer that's best suited to answer the user's search query. So the key thing here is that in traditional SEO, you get placed on the search end results page, and there's many pages that users can go through. But with AI, there's typically between 3 and 5 results that you initially get up front. So you're competing for a much smaller piece of real estate, but it has a much higher impact because people trust the answers that AI gives them. So if you don't get cited, well, then you're going to be invisible to the customers. And there's not really another way to go about it. Like, you can't just hope that people scroll through and keep asking questions to dig deeper about more solutions. A lot of people are not. They're asking their initial question and maybe a follow-up. And if you don't appear within those solutions that are being cited, you're pretty much invisible. And there's a lot of stats to back this up. For example, here, if you're not being cited, well, then you can expect a negative 58% in organic CTRs when there's an AI overview. So you're missing out on a lot of traffic if you're not being cited in AI. About 60% of searches are not ending in a click because they're just using the AI inference to go about their decision making. And 35% of new buyers are now using AI for product discovery, as opposed to 13.6% who are using traditional SEO. So there's a huge shift in the number of people using and trusting AI answers to provide them their information. So if you're not getting cited, you're really becoming more and more invisible. And if you are getting cited, well, it's fantastic because brands who are getting cited in AI overviews get 35% more clicks. 34% of companies are adopting GEO as a strategy, and the market is only growing. It's just under $1 billion now, but it's looking to grow at a 34% compound annual growth rate for the next 6 or 5 years. And if that's not enough, most enterprise teams, around 86%, are using AI in their SEO. 34% of companies are being trained in GEO, and 40% of Google queries are showing an AI overview. So what's happening now is the traditional behavior of a consumer going to Google and asking a question is in decline. We're seeing a lot more people piling into these AI native platforms where the final result or the real estate that a brand can take up is much less. So there's much more competition to get cited. And at the same time, if you're building a startup, there are so many more competitors on the market because people are using AI to build that you actually are a lot more people competing for a much smaller piece of the pie in terms of the visual real estate that you get in front of your consumers. So it's extremely important that you do take GEO seriously, because if you get blocked out at this point, it's going to be very hard to break in down the line. So it's Really, really important to understand the shift that's happening. We need to be aware of what factors are at play and how these really affect companies and businesses going forward. There are real negative consequences for not picking up GEO and still a lot of upside for companies who do. So if you're not optimizing for GEO and still looking at traditional SEO as the main source, then you're optimizing for behavior that's in decline. So the question becomes now, well, how do I get started with GEO and how can I understand how AI decides to cite different pieces of content? And that's exactly what we're going to go through in the next section of this video. So how does AI decide who to cite and who to ignore? Well, to answer this question, we have to look under the hood. When a user types in a question to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity to start their discovery journey, AI doesn't just look back to its embedded memory or its training data to pull an answer. It will use retrieval augmented generation or RAG and its search tools to scour the web to tens or hundreds of sites and then extract the most relevant information from all the pieces of content it reads and then present that to the end user in a more succinct way. Now, our goal here is to understand what signals it looks for so we can give our content the best shot at being cited, suggested, and extracted from to provide that answer to the end user. Now, we can split our content into two parts. There is the content that we own and we create, and the content that is about us on the internet. And we're going to start with the latter first. I call this distributed consensus. What is the overall consensus about our product or our brand on the internet so AI can get a contextual understanding of what we do? So let's say we are a brand here. What AI will look at is when it scours the web, it will look at PR articles, or look at Google reviews, or look at Reddit threads, YouTube transcripts, podcast mentions, LinkedIn, and other social media content in different ways, not always at the same time. But essentially, the more information we have about us online that agrees with each other, then the better the perception of our brand and the easier it is for AI to contextualize our company. So the more independent sources that agree on us, the more that AI trusts us, which is really important. So there is something like this in traditional SEO called backlinks, where a site with a higher authority and in your niche points to you, you have like a higher authority as well. It's a similar concept, right? But we don't necessarily need the backlink. We just need to be like kind of talked about in a general sense as well. So that's the first thing, the distributed consensus or the off-page GEO. The second part is our own content, the content that we write. And we can split this into 4 buckets as to what we need to include in our content to make sure that we are getting cited most of the time. We'll have the highest probability of being cited. And that first thing is authority. Now, authority can come from having, again, strong backlinks, strong distributed consensus profile, but also things like having a lot of brand traffic, right? Are people searching for our brand and product? That signals authority. Now, that might seem like a bit of chicken and egg, but that's why we have other methods to drive traffic, like your general marketing and awareness campaigns, your off-page GEO as well. But authority is a very good indicator. And some research even shows that brand search volume is the strongest predictor of LLM citations, with a correlation of about 0.334. And this outweighs even traditional backlinks. So it's a very strong indicator, but that's only one part of the puzzle. The second thing is to look at relevance, right? How relevant is our content? Is it matching the questions that are being asked, right? And not necessarily direct keywords, but semantically related questions. So pages that explain one idea very, very clearly that can be semantically mapped to different types of questions and answer those questions is very, very valuable for AI to understand and then pull information from. So a lot of companies will create sales and persuasion and storytelling related content. Now, that is good for a specific part of the funnel, but that's not necessarily good for AI, SEO, or GEO, because we want to make sure that the AI can easily understand what we're writing about and explaining and make sure that it's easy for it to parse and extract information from. So it's very top of funnel and very informational content, right? The third thing is looking at freshness and depth and recency. So if our content is stale or we're using outdated numbers and sources, it's less likely to be cited. If we have information about a topic from yesterday and we're using information from 5 years ago, we're less likely to be cited because it's stale. So we want to make sure that we are using fresh data, fresh content, fresh opinions, all of that stuff. It's really important that we keep our content fresh so we don't fall out the loop when it comes for sourcing answers before giving them to the end user. So freshness and depth are really important. And the depth also ties into the sources that are being used, instead of just saying like random numbers or quoting people out of context, or maybe quoting a company instead of quoting a specific entity. That's all really important to keep the content deep and rich in terms of entity name dropping, and providing sources, and also making sure that it's all relevant and up to date. So really important there. And finally, we're looking at structural clarity. Now, content needs to be clear in the hierarchy, because AI doesn't just read the whole page. If you've ever looked at traditional SEO, you know that search engine crawlers that read web pages have a budget. They have a set of resources that are allocated to them that allow them to go and scan a page or a website. If your content is not structured appropriately, it's going to run out of resources before you get all the information. And it's the same with AI, except obviously they have tokens. So there's a token limit, usually on how much it can read before it has to stop, or before it decides to go deeper or not. And so we want to make sure that we're giving a lot of the juice up front. So pages with clear headings so the AI knows what's on the page, logical flow of content. Instead of a lot of storytelling and persuasion content, we just want a logical flow of information. We want to make sure that there's summaries, there's key takeaways, there's FAQs that are all schemed and marked as such so the AI understands what each section is. And you want to make sure that our questions that we want answered are being produced in the content as well. Instead of just kind of writing an answer to a question that could be asked, we want to explicitly say, here's the question and here's the answer as well. And I'll do another video on that at some point in the future about how to structure your content properly. But the main thing is that you want your content to have structural clarity so AI can easily parse, understand, and extract information, because the easier you can help it do that, the more likely it's going to recommend you and suggest your answers to other people. And just to kind of wrap all of that up into a little table here, content that gets cited versus content that gets ignored. Thin content, generic advice without sources, full self-promo, only on our site, no clear structure that allows AI to clearly understand the context, doesn't answer specific questions or include relevant queries, that's not going to get cited. But specific and direct content, structured with headers, source-backed, validated across multiple platforms, answers clear questions with those in the content, and exists on many independent places, that's going to get cited more. So make sure that you are encompassing these elements into your content or thinking about this when structuring your GEO strategy so you can have the best chances of being cited. Now that we understand how AI decides to cite or ignore content, we can go into the 6-step framework for GEO that we use with our clients and that you can have to implement today. So now that we understand how AI might decide to cite or ignore content, we can get into the 6-step GEO framework. And that all starts with auditing our initial AI visibility. We should know where we stand with AI search. So we should open up things like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and just give a little search around problems that we solve for our brand and understand how AI is citing our brand in the first place. Now, this is not a scalable thing. You can use tools such as Profound, PromptWatch, SEMrush to also do similar things at scale. But it's always good to just get a taster from how you perceive your brand and typing that in and the questions that you would ask to get answers from your brand and seeing if you do even come up. Now, this is where most people get a wake-up call because very rarely do people actually get cited right off the bat. But again, looking at tools like Profound, PromptWatch, and other things, we can do this at scale and then start building a strategy specifically for AI citations and also analyze our competitors as well, which is a really important thing. And you definitely need to do this in line with your traditional SEO as well. So you get a good idea of whether you're ranking specifically for traditional search terms and not for AI terms or AI citations or queries. But it's also good just to do that as a good practice as well. So once you audit your site and you know where you stand, you can then look at creating a content strategy around AI queries and not just keywords. Now, I prefer this hub and spoke model, which we call content clustering, where we take a cluster of keywords or queries around a specific topic, which would be like the hub, and then we can create different types of content from top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel content to other adjacent query-led content as well. So we can kind of build authority and relevance and a lot of content in this specific topic to become a topical authority, and then allow AI to understand and contextualize our brand around this topic as well. Now, these adjacent queries could be where AI citation opportunity is the highest because fewer brands have intentionally created content for these queries. A lot of the time, you can just put them specifically in your content. For example, if you have a how-to guide, you can put a specific FAQ or a key summary that answers a very specific question, which you can include in the content, and that should be good enough. But if the question is quite deep and quite a big topic in itself, then you can go ahead and create an external piece of content like that, and it's no issue at all. Now, the reason that we have different types of content at different stages of the funnel is so, again, AI can contextualize our brand and get more information, but also we have to think about traditional SEO as well. People are still clicking, and we want to make sure that when people come to our site, whether it's through AI or traditional search, when they get there, they have a funnel of content that they can go through to help them convert themselves and nurture those customers into a paying customer or user as well. So it's not all just for AI SEO. The top of funnel is a specific case for that. But the other content will also be good for nurturing those people who do find you through AI search and then come to your page to learn more. So it's really important that we optimize not just for being cited by AI, but the after effects of that if that is successful. So once we have our keyword strategy, our query strategy, and our content clusters all mapped out, we can go on to actually creating content. Now, the content creation should have a very strong emphasis on structure as well. If we have a lot of block content and a wall of text, there's no entry point for AI to contextualize our content. And as I mentioned earlier, they have a resource limit of how much they can spend analyzing a specific page. So I want to make sure that we're very well structured in our content, using key takeaways, H2s, H3s, step-by-steps, using the right schema markup in our content. The better the passability of the content, the easier it is for AI to go ahead and cite us and recommend us to other people. So it's really important that we do have the structure nailed down. And again, I'll create a video on how we can structure this in the future. But for now, what you need to make sure of is that your content has a structured, logical flow, that you are using the right schemas, FAQs, key takeaways, and summaries within the content as well. And I would start with a key takeaway section as well, so AI understands what the page is about before it even gets too deep into the content. Now, step 4 would be to build entity authority across the web. So this is our distributed consensus, right? So press articles, Google reviews, Trustpilot reviews, LinkedIn content, getting on people to create content about us on YouTube, getting our pages in directories like Crunchbase, podcasts, Reddit threads. All these are really important, right? We need our content, all content that talks about us and our products across the internet. For example, if people are discussing particular solutions to a problem that we solve on Reddit, we should insert ourselves into the conversation and make sure that our brand name comes up there and why. So it's really important that internet has a good idea or a good base of knowledge about our brand, and it's not just on our own site, right? And this is also why you can't just rely on GEO as your sole distribution. It's a very, very strong supporting player if you can also distribute your product and get your brand out there in other ways as well. Step 5 is to create citation-worthy assets. So giving AI something original to cite. This can be something like a survey or a report or a PDF or something that is really, really unique and has your own data. Because original data and research is something that keeps your content fresh and unique and relevant, right? So stats, any sort of named frameworks. For example, if I gave this 6-step framework a name, maybe I called it the Ramsey method or something, that would be something that is worth doing because it could be that if it goes, that could be something worth doing because AI can cite it as such. And that's good for us, right? So making sure we, again, have original data, named frameworks, any quotable definitions, any specific takes or stances that we have, we should make sure that we're including that in our content so AI can get that original data, that unique data, and cite it during its inference for other people. Now, this can also include things like strong infographics, because if you look at traditional SEO, infographics and having shareable content is very important. And the same thing also applies here as well. So if you have formats that you're already getting cited for, double down and keep pushing them forward. Again, really important that we have things that are worth sharing and help differentiate our brand as well and provide AI some ammunition to give us citations. And finally, number 6 is to monitor our AI citation share. Now, you can use tools like Profound, PromptWatch, Meridian. There's a plethora of tools out there that you can use. I'm not affiliated with any, unfortunately, at the moment, so I can't help there. But there's loads of tools out there that you can use to basically monitor your progress, whether it's your share of voice or the queries that you rank for, and all that good stuff. Because ultimately, the way that citations work is kind of probabilistic. So you might not show up every single time, but what you want to focus on is improving your share of showing up for a specific set of queries and the breadth of queries that you're showing up for. Because ultimately, there's not that many slots available. So you want to make sure that we are improving our share of appearing in those 1, 3, 5 slot answers as well, and making sure that we appear for more answers at the same time. And it's really important to track this to make sure that we're on track, see which queries are getting the most traction. Maybe we can double down in adjacent queries there to own that space. And it's just important to know whether your strategy is working or whether you need to chop and change things at any given time. So to recap, you should be auditing your AI visibility and content. You should be mapping your content to questions and structured content clusters. You should be making sure it's structured for passability and information extraction, building entity authority and distributed consensus, creating original citation-worthy content, and monitoring and iterating as we go. This is not a one and done solution. As I mentioned, there's going to be loads of people piling into conducting GEO. It's where the space is going for product discovery. And if you're not keeping up to date and iterating your content to make sure it's always top of the line, you're going to be overtaken at some point by someone with a bigger budget. So here's the mindset shift I want you to take away from this video. GEO is not a growth hack. It's not tricking AI into citing you. What we really want to do is become an authority in our space. And to be authoritative, you have to have the right sort of content and say the right things, but also have opinion about you aligning with that as well, which is why we have our own content being structured the way it is and the distributed consensus supporting that perspective too. And if you can really nail that as an early stage company, you have such a great advantage over your competitors because it's like a ticking time bomb. There's only a set few spaces you can really rank for or get cited for. And as time goes on and humans get better at creating products with AI, there's going to be way more competitors in the market. So you need to start owning those queries now before other people can take them from you. So if you want to work through this for your specific products, get in touch with me through the link in the description. And if you found this video valuable, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone who might find this useful too. And we'll see you in the next video.